This video is sponsored by those childhood series that just won't let you go. Hello my lovely friends, it's Margaret and it's time to nerd out about rereads. This is yet another installment in my books I want to read in 2019. I just have been realizing that there are a bunch of books that I loved a long time ago, and I have been craving those worlds, wanting to reread them, and the great thing about books is that they are always right where you put them, usually, unless someone's walked off with them. You can always go right back into that world, and it is different every time. I love rereading books. I just feel like you get so much more out of the experience the second time because you're, especially as a writer, because you're able to see all of the foreshadowing and the little Easter eggs that the author put in there. So I have a list of 6 books and 6 series that I want to reread. Well, 7 technically, that I want to reread in 2019. First on that list is Pride by E.B. Du Bois. This is a retelling or remix of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. It's told in Brooklyn and it's about Zuri Benitez, and she is an Afro-Latina teen growing up in Brooklyn, and she is very much against the gentrification of her neighborhood. And to complicate matters, a family moves in across the street with 2 very handsome boys. Her sister hits it off with the oldest boy, but Zuri and the younger brother just they don't seem to be a good match. I like to say that sparks fly, but not necessarily the good kind. This is such a clever retelling of Pride and Prejudice, and I just want to reread it. I listened to it as an audiobook, and I feel like I did not get the full oomph and impact, especially since it goes between regular, like, prose and parts that are told in verse, because Zuri does write, I think it's spoken word. She writes poetry, for sure. But I really want to reread this one because I adored it, and it's worth a reread. So if you haven't read it, you should read it. The next book on my list is Crown Duel by Sherwood Smith. This is one that I discovered when I was a teenager. It's actually 2 books in one. It's Crown Duel and Court Duel. Originally they were published as the Crown and Court Duology, but then they got bound up into this one, which is sad because as much as I love this particular cover, my favorite cover is the cover for Court Duel. Also, I like the larger size. But this is all I could find. Look at how tiny this tiny text. This is about Meliara. And basically, her family is a noble family, and they very much disagree with the king, and so they're holding their own little rebellion because the king is he's just awful. He is horrible, but her father has died, and she and her brother are trying to keep this rebellion on its feet, and it's not going very well, and then it just goes worse. It's got enemies to lovers, which you know Margaret's into, and it's got like a lot of politics, and I really like it, and it is one of the books that kind of I draw on for inspiration for one of my manuscripts that I'm working on. Just there are parts of it that have definitely influenced that, and a lot of it is like the court setting. So I really do love it. I love the characters in it, and it's been so long since I read it that I need to read it again. That's how it works. My autofocus doesn't know whether it wants to focus on me right now or this guy. The next book that I want to reread this year is The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. So, this is my favorite book that Maggie Stiefvater has ever written. It almost made me cry. You do not understand what high praise that is. I was literally like choking back tears. Like, if it had gone on for much longer, the ending of this book, just beautiful. This is about Puck and Sean, and Puck is a young girl living on some island, I don't know. Every year in November, speaking of which, I'll probably start this November 1st. That's how it's going to work. But every year in November, the Kapel Ishka come onto the sands of their small island. And the Kapel Ishka are man-eating horses. As in human eating, not like they eat men and not women. Like they have zero discrimination based on gender. A whole bunch of the men on the island go down to the beach and they try and capture these Kapel Ishka for a race, because they have a race every year where you're racing the Kapel Ishka. Puck is trying to save her family farm because both of her parents have died, and she and her brothers are on their own, and so she decides that she is going to enter in this race with her normal island pony. And then Sean is a pro jockey. He's won the race like the last 2 years running, and so she and Sean kind of end up teaming up to train because one of them, they're both really desperate to win. He wants to win because he wants to be able to purchase his horse, Core, who he has been riding since he was a small boy, who is a Kapel Ishka, and then Puck, obviously, again, family farm. I love this book. I've made everyone I know read it. If you like Maggie Stiefvater and you haven't read this book yet, do yourself a favor and pick it up. The next book that I need to read is The Iron King by Julie Kagawa. I don't entirely remember what this is about. It's about Megan, and she is the daughter of a fairy king or something, and so she ends up having to go and confront, like, there is this new she was raised as a human, but then people come in, I think they kidnap her brother or something, I don't know. Something happens and she has to go into the fairy realm, and she discovers that she is the daughter of the king, and that there is this new kind of fairy coming because technology is becoming so prevalent. There's this new kind of fairy that are called the Iron Fae, and they are made out of technological components like metal and stuff that most Fae don't get along with. And so she has to team up with a prince of fairy who doesn't really much like her, and she doesn't really much like him, but you know how that lasts all of, like, 2 seconds, clearly, because Margaret loves this book. I never finished the series, and I feel like at this point I need to reread this before I move on to the next book. The fifth book that I really want to reread is Sticky. It's Sticky. It's Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I read this ages ago. I loved it. I feel such affinity with Kath. This is like a college set YA, and Kath is going off to college for the first time with her sister Ren, and they're twins, and Ren is wanting to be a little bit more independent of Kath than Kath wants to be of Ren, and so Kath is having to deal with that. And she also writes a lot of fanfic for this Simon Snow series, which is basically their version, this world's version of the Harry Potter series. You might have heard of Carry On. That's what, it's her fan fiction. But I absolutely adored this. I adored Kath. I have adored Levi. It was cute. It was fun. And so I need to read it. And the final book that I want to reread this year is Artemis Fowl by Owen Colfer. I don't remember, it was so long ago, I don't even remember how old I was when I found this book. But I loved it. I finished the series, wasn't entirely happy with the very last book, but maybe I could be okay with it now that I am older and an adult and much more sophisticated and not completely about the romance, because there's not much of it in Artemis Fowl. So, you know, that was an issue for Margaret. The movie is coming out, so I really, really want to reread Artemis Fowl this year. Artemis Fowl is about this teenage super genius who's kind of a criminal as well, and he knows about the fairies. There are a lot of fairies on this list, I'm just now realizing. So basically, he ends up kidnapping one and holding her for ransom because he wants their gold or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. I know it ties into the second book, but it's been a long time, okay? I was probably like 12 when I read this the first time, or younger. If you're thinking, Margaret, that looks like a different shirt, it's also a different month. Somehow, this guy got unplugged without me noticing. So, we're gonna do this again. The original video was filmed in January. It is now April. Like, I don't know, I don't even know when it's going up at this point, but I am refilming, so we're gonna get into it. Okay, so, series that I need to reread because, like, they just bring me so much joy. The first series that we're gonna talk about is the Enchanted Forest Chronicles, starting with Dealing with Dragons. I own this. I haven't read it since I bought it. I actually have never read this particular version, but I have listened to the audiobook multiple times because my family and I, we loved it. Growing up when I was a child. So this first book is about Cimarine, and she decides that she doesn't really like any of the alternatives that her parents are putting forth. Like, she's like, I don't like any of these princes that you're trying to get me to marry, so I'm gonna run away, and I'm gonna find a dragon and be a dragon's princess. Now, in this world, princesses usually are, like, kidnapped by dragons, and it's very respectable to be kidnapped by a dragon and become a dragon's princess. Like, that's a normal thing for a princess in this world. What's not normal is for a princess to suddenly show up at a dragon's cave and say, hey, you need a princess, I need a dragon, can you protect me from all of these really stupid dudes that are trying to win my hand in marriage? That's basically what happens in this book, and I mean, like, some really stupid knights show up and princes and all of that stuff, and it is hilarious. She gets involved in dragon politics, and she starts to learn magic, and I love this series. It is so witty. The chapter titles, okay, hold on, I'm gonna read you some, the first chapter title is In Which Cimarine Refuses to Be Proper and Has a Conversation with a Frog. This is the book that started my love of crazy chapter titles, okay? Okay. The next series that I need to read because I think the last book has come out recently or is coming out soon, and it's the Queen's Thief series by Megan Wayland Turner. The first book is The Thief, over here somewhere, and it's about Jen, and he is in, it's like kind of this Greek-inspired world where you have Athens versus Sparta almost, and Jen is in one of them, and I think he's in the Sparta version, like the alternate version of Sparta, and I think the other country is supposed to be the alternate version of Athens, but he is a thief, and he's really good at what he does. So he decides, for some unknown reason, that he's gonna go and steal this really important artifact or jewel or something from the other kingdom. I'm not entirely, like, there are political reasons behind it. I don't entirely remember all of it, but it just starts this chain of events that I absolutely adore. It's fantastic. Like, I don't remember Jen's country. his country's name, but I know that the other country is Atolia because the next two titles for the next two books, like books 2 and 3, are all about the royalty in Atolia, and I absolutely adored them. I haven't read book 4 or book 5, which I think is the last book that's coming out, but I need to read them. I just need to reread them because I enjoyed them. I loved them. The second book is a bit of a shocker. Like, whoa, my best friend did not warn me about that. They both knew, and they didn't warn me. Anyways, hey. So I just, really want to read this series again because I really, really liked it. Speaking of series that I discovered in my teens and absolutely adore, it's been a really long time. The next series is not, it's less of a series and more of like an author that I just want to reread all of the books that I have not read recently, and that is Allie Carter. Hold on, can you see? Can you see? It's the Gallagher Girls series. Boom. Cannot focusing. And the Heist Society series. And if you were to ask me which series I like more, I don't think I could tell you. I really don't. So, I don't know. For sure, hold on. There we go. Whoop. For sure, I want to reread Gallagher Girls, okay? Girls in Spy School, guys. Like, what more can you ask? Like, it's great. It's fantastic. I love it. I can't tell you the thing that Allie Carter does in this series, but it's one of the only series where that happens, and I am okay with it. If you've read it, you know what it is, and we're all in agreement on that, because, like, yes, thank you, perfection, okay? But this is about, hold on, I don't want to hold, I'm done holding all of these. Okay, so these two series, Cami Morgan, Cat Bishop, Spy in Training, Super Thief. Yeah. Hot spy boyfriend, billionaire boyfriend. Does this sound familiar, guys? Anyways, my story with these two series is absolutely hilarious because I discovered this series, the Gallagher Girl series, the original series that Allie Carter wrote that absolutely made me fall in love with her, and I read the first 3 books. And then that was it. That was all that you could get. And I was like, this is unfortunate. I want more books. But I went about my life, and then the last year of college comes. Yeah, last year of college. I probably finished this year. I don't know. I don't know how many times, because I've read it so many times I've lost count. Last year of college comes, and I'm walking around Walmart, and I see this sucker just sitting on the shelf at Walmart. I had no idea, guys. Do you know, like, day made, and then I found out that there were going to be 3 more books, and that was fantastic, except she was working on this series first, and I was very bitter about that until I actually read this book. I think it took me a hot minute to read this book because I was bitter about the fact that she was working on this series and not Gallagher Girls number 5, but, like, which the saddest part is, this one only has 3 books, and it needs more. This one deserves 6 books just as much as this one does. So, like, who was it, Scholastic? Oh, Disney Hyperion, get on that. She's probably moved on. I have not. The next series I wanna reread has to do, if you saw my series that I need to start or finish in 2019 video, I said I need to finish the Vampire Academy series. And so once I'm finished with that, we are then going to go into a reread of the Bloodline series. I don't own book 1, I just randomly own book 4 because thrift stores, thank you. And so I don't have book 1 to hold up, but I do have book 4, which has Sydney and Adrian. And this is about Sydney, and she is an alchemist in this world where there are vampires, and alchemists kind of think it's their job to control the vampire. Basically, alchemists think all vampires are evil, and that it is their job to make sure that they don't overstep their bounds, like, they're kind of jerks. But Sydney is an alchemist, and she is a friend of Rose from the previous series, so we meet her a little bit in the previous series. We've also have met Adrian in the previous series. And stuff goes down, and Sydney basically ends up babysitting Adrian and this other vampire in a, like, California boarding school or something because somebody is after this other vampire. And it's really complicated, and I can't really tell you much about it without spoiling the last book because there are things happening in the last book, but it has absolutely one of my favorite romances. Like, also one of my favorite redemption arcs, where, like, you go from bad, like, listen, I am a sucker for a good bad boy to soft boy arc, and holy cow, does that happen in this series? Yes. I actually read this series first, so I know what happens in Vampire Academy. Whoops. Oh, well, I don't really care, because this was so good. I was, like, I think I started the series right before this one came out. And then I had to wait 3 more years to finish the series and see if everything was going to be okay. And if I remember correctly, this one ends really badly. It's either this one or book 5 that ends really badly for Sydney. We're down to the last 2 series that I need to reread, and one of them, I've been meaning, it's actually funny because I want to reread it because someone was trashing it. And so when you trash my favorite books, it just makes me want to reread them, apparently. But I want to reread the Leviathan Trilogy by Scott Westerfeld. This is my favorite series by Scott Westerfeld. I've read Uglies and I've read Zeros. I haven't finished Zeros yet. This is such a great, like, retelling of World War I. We are in an alternate universe. We've got the Clankers and we've got the Darwinists, and the Clankers are like the Austro-German power, and then England and the Allies. Is that what they were referred to in World War I? I'm not entirely sure, but like England and France and all of that, they're the Darwinists. And the reason they're the Darwinists is Charles Darwin kind of unlocked the gene code a little bit early in this particular timeline. They don't really go into the particulars of it, but you just know that like they're able to make these really cool, hold on, can I get a picture of one? The Clankers, like, they make these really cool mech, can you focus? These really cool mech machines, and then the Darwinists, aha, perfect. The Darwinists make like weird, like that's a jellyfish kind of hot air balloon type thing, and that right there is Darren Sharp, who is the main character, one of the main characters of this series. And she has disguised herself as a boy so she can be in the British Air Force in World War I. And so she ends up on the Leviathan, which is a dirigible whale. Like it's got some. It's a gassy whale that can float in the sky, basically. Are you not ready to read this series? It's about Darren, and she's on the Leviathan, and they end up coming across Alec, and he is the son that did not exist of Franz Ferdinand and whatever his wife's name was. And so he has fled Austria after the murder of his parents has been used as fodder to start a world war. He's fled it. They're hiding out in the mountains, and then Darren's ship crashes, and Alec is like, well, we have stuff to help them, so we should help them. And everything just goes wrong from there, and I love it. Like, listen, if you like alternate history, you need to read this because it is one of my favorite. Like, I adore it, and it has illustrations in it, and it's everything I love. Also has angsty romance. I love it so much. I've read this entire series a couple of times, and I feel like I just need to read it again. The audiobook is really good, by the way. If you would like to go audiobook-wise, I really enjoy the audiobook. Looking at this, a lot of these are series that I discovered in, like, high school and college, because here's yet another one that I discovered in high school, and that is this study series. This is the original trilogy. There are more books now, and I haven't read any of them because I need to reread these first. Look at these gorgeous covers, though. Like, I mean, I'm never going to be able to find covers that match these, and that means that my series is not going to match, and I'm not happy with this, but anyways, this is about Yelena, and Yelena lives in Ixia. Yelena lives in Ixia, and she has been accused, well, she's in jail for murder, basically. She murdered someone for reasons that you find out later. So Varric, who is chief of the commander's security, the commander is the one that rules Ixia because they've dethroned the king because the king sucked. He approaches Yelena and he's like, listen, I will train you as a poison tester for the commander, and so, like, eventually you're gonna die because you'll eventually ingest poison, and there will be no antidote for it, but until then, you'll still be alive. So she's stuck in this whole political thing where she's trying to learn all of these different poisons and how to identify them so that she can get the right antidote if they end up being, in the commander's food. And she's also trying to figure out how can she make this reprieve, be it a permanent type of thing. And then there's romance. If you like enemies to lovers, or it's not really enemies to lovers, it's more like bitter allies to lovers. This is for you. Like, this is so good, and there are some questionable choices made by the main couple, and what they choose to do and where they choose to do it, because, really there, like, that, a little squicky because germs. Other than that, it's a beautiful series, and I love it, and I can't wait to continue on with it. I have no idea whether the rest, like the continuation of the series, follows Yelena or not, but we'll see. I love it. It's fantastic, and so I need to reread this. That went really far. I don't know if you could hear that thunk, but it hit my window. Anyways, so those are the books and the series that I want to reread in 2019. Will I reread all of them? I don't know. Like I said, we're gonna like at the end of the year, we're gonna sit down with this list of books that I wanted to reread or read for 2019, and we'll see if I did it. That is it for today, guys. Let me know in the comments down below, what is a book or a series that you would really like to reread? Like it's just, and why? Why would you like to reread it? What is it about it that keeps you coming back? Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, hit that subscribe button. I make videos 2 to 3 times a week about books and writing, and I would love to see your lovely face here on a regular basis. If you want more of me, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. Those are both at the word nerd with a 3 in nerd instead of the E. That is it for now, my friends. I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!